So we have our daily language review, our DLR, for week 2. Just like the first week, it's broken up into a couple of different boxes, and each box has some different questions for it. Let's look at our first box. Whoa, whoa, relax. Okay. So the first box this week is a little bit different than last week. It's not asking us to find complete sentences or incomplete sentences. This first box says which type is the sentence. So there's different kinds of sentences. So we have 4 answer choices: declarative, interrogative, imperative, and exclamatory. So we're going to go over real quick the differences of the different kinds of sentences. The first kind is declarative. Declarative sentences are when you're just saying something, kind of like when you're stating a fact. If you said something like, my apple is green, that's a declarative sentence. If you say something like, I don't know, I'm hungry, that's a declarative sentence. If you say something like, it looks like it's going to rain, that's a declarative sentence. A declarative sentence is just when you say that you're just saying it. You're not asking anything. You're kind of just giving information. That's a declarative sentence. The next one, interrogative. This one you might have a little bit of a hint if you've ever watched like the different police shows, like with mom or dad, like they have Law and Order and CSI and NCIS and all that, all those different shows where the police go and they investigate crimes. There's usually a part in those shows where they find the person they think did the crime, and they'll usually say something like, we're going to bring them in for interrogation. Means they're going to ask them questions, like they ask them, where were you, or did you know this person, or anything like that, to see if maybe they're lying or if they did the crime. An interrogative sentence does that. It asks questions. So if you said something like, are you hungry? That's an interrogative sentence. If you said something like, is it going to rain later? That's an interrogative sentence. If you said, are you cold? That's an interrogative sentence. Now, interrogative sentences have a big clue. I want to show the clue for you right now. An interrogative sentence, if you want to know if something's an interrogative sentence, look for the question mark. If the sentence has a question mark, it's an interrogative sentence. Oh, hold on. So if the sentence has a question mark, it's an interrogative sentence. If it doesn't have a question mark, it's not an interrogative sentence. So that's a big hint. If you see a question mark, it's interrogative because you're asking something. You want to know. C, imperative sentence. Imperatives we're pretty familiar with. Imperative sentences is when someone asks or tells you to do something. So usually this will be like if mom or dad tells you to clean your room, or to finish eating your broccoli, or to take out the trash, or clean up after the dog, or, I don't know, wash your hair. Any of that, that's an imperative sentence. So when someone is asking or telling you to do something. So it could be just something like, can you pass me that piece of paper over there? Or it could be when they're telling you to do something. Like if they're telling you, you need to go outside and throw out the trash. Or you need to come inside now and do your work. Or you need to wait until the cookies are finished cooling down. So imperatives are when people tell you to do something or they ask you to do something. And exclamatory. Exclamatory is when someone is either really excited or they're shouting. Those are the exclamatory sentences. Exclamatory sentences also have a very big clue. Interrogatives, their big clue. Oh, ooh, not what I want to do. Okay. Interrogatives, their big clue is that it has a question mark, exclamatory. The big clue is an exclamation point or an exclamation mark. If you see the exclamation mark or the exclamation point at the end of a sentence, it's exclamatory. Somebody is really excited or they're shouting, whatever it might be. So exclamatory could be if they're excited about something. It could be if they're scared or if they're trying to warn you. Like if someone says, "Watch out, the floor is wet." That's an exclamatory sentence because they might have to shout it to you from far away so you don't accidentally walk on the wet floor and then slip and fall. Or it could be that they're really excited. Like if they say something like, "Dad's bringing pizza for dinner." They're really excited because pizza's amazing. They love it. They could be yelling or shouting. Exclamatory could also be like if you're in pain, like if you're walking around and you don't have any shoes on because you're inside the house, and then you hit your toe on the couch and you go, "Ow!" Or you go, "My toe." That would have an exclamation mark because, again, you're not just quietly going, "My toe." You'd be shouting because your toe hurts. "My toe!" So those are exclamatory sentences.
I wish I had a dad.
Christopher, make sure that if you have a question, sir, raise your hand. But if not, make sure we have our microphone muted. All right. We have a circle here, and we need to pick the best answer choice. My favorite cafeteria lunch is corn dogs, green beans, and strawberries. Who thinks they know which answer choice is it? Is it A? Is it B? Is it C? Or is it D? Who's got an idea? Which one seems like the best one? Declarative, where they're just telling us something. Interrogative, where they're asking us a question. Imperative, where they're asking or telling us to do something. Or exclamatory, where they're shouting or excited. Bailey, what do you think? What kind of sentence might this one be?
A.
This one would be a declarative sentence. They're just telling us, they're giving us a fact or a piece of information. They're telling us this is what their favorite lunch is. It's when they have corn dogs, green beans, and strawberries. So they're just telling us. Remember, interrogative always has that big clue, the question mark. If I look at the end, there's no question mark. It's not asking anything, so it's not interrogative. Exclamatory also has that big clue. Got an exclamation mark, someone shouting, excited. But at the end, no exclamation mark. So not exclamatory. And imperative, they're not telling us to do something. They're not telling us, "Hey, you need to eat corn dogs and green beans and strawberries." They're not telling us, "Hey, can you pass me the corn dog?" Or they're not telling us, "Pass me the corn dogs or the green beans or the strawberries." They're just letting us know what their favorite lunch is. So this one would be declarative. Our answer would be A. Okay. Ooh, these ones are good. Okay. Next box says circle the similes. So real quick, raise your hand if you have heard of similes before. Okay. See a couple of hands going up. That's good. All right. First thing, people ask me this a lot. They look at this word here and they go, "But there's no smiles. There's no faces." That doesn't say smiles. It says similes. It looks really similar though. Similes are when you take two things that are different, two different things, and you try to show how they are similar or how they are alike. Similes have a big hint. So when you know you have a simile is when you see the words like or you see the word as. Similes will use the word like or as to show you that two things are similar, that there's some way that they're the same. All right, let's take a look at this first one. Yesterday's weather was as hot as the equator. I see my words here. As hot as the equator. Okay. Now, the equator is that middle part of the earth. Like if you were to take the earth and take a pencil and draw a line around the middle of it, that's the equator. Usually places that are around the equator are pretty warm. And the closer you get to the equator, the warmer it gets. The further away you get from the equator, the colder it gets. So like the North Pole and the South Pole, those are as far away from the equator as you can get. And they're also pretty cold. The closer you get to the equator, the warmer and warmer it gets. So they're saying that yesterday, the weather was really, really hot, like it would be near the equator. So I'm going to take a circle here. As hot as the equator. So they're comparing the weather and the equator. They're telling us how they're the same. All right, I'm going to need some help on this next one. Grandma's hair is as white as snow. Who thinks they know where the simile is there? Grandma's hair is as white as snow. Kylie, you think you know where it is?
Um, the simile is white as snow.
Okay, so here, Grandma's hair is as white as snow. Now, who can tell me, what are the two things they're comparing? So they're telling us that both of those things are white, but what are the two things that they're saying are white? Brianna, what are the two things they're comparing?
The grandma's hair and snow.
So the grandma's hair and snow, because both of them are bright white color. Okay, next one. Haley felt like a grown-up when her mom asked her to babysit for her little sister. Where's the simile here? Haley felt like a grown-up when her mom asked her to babysit for her little sister. Bailey, you think you know?
I have a different question.
Oh, I'm sorry. What's your question?
Well, I was trying to get to where you are right now.
Uh-huh.
It's just not as going to writing.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't show up.
Okay. I'll help you out when we finish with it. That way you can see all the answers at once, okay? But usually you just have to reload the page.
Okay.
Okay.
Want me to do that right now?
No, you don't have to worry about it. Just make sure that you're following along with us, and at the end you'll have a chance to go back and put the answers in.
Okay.
Okay. Who can tell me for number 3? Where do you think the simile is? Haley felt like a grown-up when her mom asked her to babysit for her little sister. Messiah, what do you think? Where is the simile there?
Where it says light.
Okay, like, again, you
Quiet.
found that word. So here is our simile. What are the two things they're comparing in that simile? We found our word like, felt like a grown-up. What are the two things that they're comparing? If you're ever unsure what two things they're comparing, look at the sides of either the word like or the word as. One will be on one side, one will be on the other side. Bella, what do you think? What are they comparing? What are they comparing in this simile here? What would be your guess, Bella? Can you tell me one thing that they're comparing? One of the two things? Would you like some help on it, Bella? Okay, who can give Bella some help? What do you think are one of the things that they're comparing? Brianna?
As tall.
Not tall, because it doesn't say tall here. Haley felt like a grown-up when her mother asked her to babysit for her little sister. So again, let's look on the sides. Okay? So here's like, felt. Okay, I don't think they're comparing felt to anything. Not the feeling. Haley. Are they comparing Haley to something? Are they saying anything about Haley? What do you think, Brianna? Are they saying anything about Haley?
Mm-mm.
Haley felt like a grown-up when her mom asked her to babysit for her little sister. Who's the one babysitting? Who's the babysitter in this sentence? Who can tell me who would be the babysitter? Nakai?
Haley?
Haley's the babysitter. And they're talking about Haley's feelings, what she felt like. So, what did Haley feel like when she was babysitting? Because they're comparing her feelings.
Like she was a grown up?
Like she was a grown up. Who can tell me why do you think Haley would feel like a grown up when her mom asked if she could babysit her sister? Violet, why would Haley feel like a grown up?
Because it's a hard task to babysit.
Okay, because it's not easy to babysit. And if they ask you to babysit, they're also telling you that they trust you, right? They're trusting that you're gonna make sure that you keep sorry, not baby sister, but little sister safe, that you give her food and all that. So I could see why she felt like a grown up. She felt responsible. It's a not something that's very easy to do. So I think that makes sense. Okay, the next one. When Jamie sits on his daddy's shoulders, he feels as tall as the oak tree. Where's the simile in sentence 4? When Jamie sits on his daddy's shoulders, he feels as tall as the oak tree. Kylie, where's the simile?
As tall as an oak tree.
Okay, as tall as the oak tree.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And what are they comparing in that simile? What are the two things that they're talking about? We know that it's something as tall as. So what are the two things that they're saying are the same height? Who can tell me what are the two things that they're comparing? They're talking about how tall they are. What are the two things they're talking about with their height? Okay?
Yay. So tree.
The tree? Okay, and what are they comparing with the tree?
Jamie.
Jamie. So they're not saying normally, right? Jamie's not always walking around the size of a tree. But they're saying that when Jamie is sitting on his dad's shoulders, when he's up here, that he's now as tall as the oak tree. So he feels way, way taller. And he is way taller when his dad picks him up and puts him here on his shoulders. So now he's sitting up here. So now Jamie's way up here where the oak tree is. Okay, I'm going to zoom out just a little bit. All right. We have a sentence to fix. It says, the judge said that Brian's cookies was the bestest in the contest. What are some mistakes they made in this sentence? Who can give me one mistake from the sentence? Violet, can you give me one mistake?
It shouldn't be said. It should be said.
Perfect. We talked about that earlier. Say is an irregular verb. When it's past tense, you don't just put an ed. It actually changes. So it's not said, it's said. All right, so there's one mistake. Who can find another mistake for me? There's still a few. Kylie, can you give me another one?
The first that starts with capitalized T.
Okay, the beginning of our sentence, the, should always have a capital letter. And I'm glad that you said the first the. So it's not all of the thes in our sentence. It's just the very first one that gets capitalized.
Mm-hmm.
What else? Nakai.
There needs to be a period
Where?
at the end.
Perfect. We need a period at the end of the sentence. Brianna?
The beginning of beginning of the sentence needs to be capitalized.
Yeah, we had said that the first the should have a capital T. The other thes can stay lowercase, but just this first one needs to be capital. What else? What's another change? We said we capitalized the T in the. We said said should be said. And then we said there's a period at the end. So there's two more mistakes that we need to fix. Alexa, you think you found one of them?
The B in Bryant should be capitalized because it's a name.
You're right. So the B in Brian's should be capitalized. Oh, you know what? I'm sorry, guys. We're 3. So that's one of the mistakes. There's still 2 left. 2 mistakes left. Capitalize the T in the first one. Capitalize the B in Brian's because it's his name. Put a period at the end of the sentence. Change said to said. There's still 2 more mistakes. Messiah, you found another one?
Bestest.
What about it?
You're not supposed to put the EST.
Perfect. Best, when you have best, you don't have to say best est. You just say best. Means it's better than all of the other ones. Okay, one mistake left. It's a tricky one, and it's a small mistake. There's one final mistake. Who can tell me, what do you think that last mistake is? It's a tricky one. We said capitalize the T in the. Change said to said. Then capitalize the B in Brian's. Change bestest to best. Put a period at the end. There's one last mistake. And like I said, this one's kind of tricky. Bailey, what do you think?
Capitalize giant J. Write his name.
Judge?
Judge.
We don't capitalize that because it's not his actual name. So judge is his title. That's what he is. So it's kind of like saying the teacher or the police officer. You don't capitalize those things because those aren't their names. If they were, signing a paper or something, they wouldn't put judge or police officer on it. They would put their actual name. Aideen, what do you think? What could that last mistake be?
To capitalize contest.
Contest? No, it's not specific contest because they just say the contest. They don't tell us what contest it is. They don't tell us if it's just a baking contest or a cookie contest or anything else. They're not being very specific with it. Nakai, what do you think?
Cookie.
No, cookies is okay. Because normally when you bake cookies, you don't just bake one. It's not a cookie, you bake cookies.
The IES.
No, that's fine. That's how you would spell it. So the last mistake is a tricky one. It's actually in the word Brian's. What we have to do, because the cookies are his, they belong to him because he's the one making them. What we have to
S.
do is we have to add an apostrophe before the S in Brian's. That's the very last mistake that they have here. If the cookies are his, if he's the one making them, we have to put an apostrophe right here between the N and the S, because that shows us the cookies belong to Brian. So now we can write our sentence with all of our corrections. Capital, the judge, and not said, but said, S-A-I-D, that, capital, Brian's, with an apostrophe S, cookies. Oh, I'm sorry, guys. I missed a mistake. It shouldn't be was here. Who thinks they can tell me what's the word that should go here? The judge said that Brian's cookies... What? What's the word that should go there instead of was? Ezekiel?
Were.
Were. Perfect. I'm sorry, guys. That one almost got past me. The judge said that Brian's cookies were the best in the contest, period. Yes, Christopher.
Is it okay if I be absent for a few days if I go to San Antonio?
Well, I can talk with your mom about that, Christopher, but for right now, I don't want you to worry about being absent. I want you to worry about our work. Okay? This next box has us writing plurals. So plurals are when you have more than one of something. We talked about these a little bit last week. Loaf. Loaf is like when you have one loaf of bread. You go to the store and you buy a loaf of bread. If you buy more than one loaf, because you're going to be making French toast and you need lots of bread, or because you like to eat sandwiches, so you buy lots of bread, and you buy more than one, it would be loaves. And because it ends with a F, it changes a little bit when it becomes plural. You can't just add an S. What you do is it starts out the same, L-O-A. Then instead of an F, we put a V instead. And then we add ES. So a loaf, one, turns into loaves when there's 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. Half follows a very similar rule. Who thinks they can take a guess? How would I spell the plural of half? How do you think that one would be spelled? Again, I see that it ends with the F, so I can't just put an S there. Bailey, what do you think? How should I spell this one?
L-E-A-V-E-S.
Okay. It starts out the same, so the beginning is the same. H-A-L, and then instead of the F, you said what?
V.
V-E-S. So the beginning is the same. I don't have to mess with it, but the F turns into a V, and then I add E-S. What about leaf? Who can tell me how do you think I would spell leaf if there was more than one? Because normally when you're walking around and you start to see them on the ground, it's not just one by itself. It's usually a bunch from the same tree. Brianna, how would I spell it?
Leaves.
Okay,
Leaves.
perfect. Again, the beginning is the same. Lea. Then the F turns into a V, and you add ES. Okay, last one. Same kind of rule. A shelf, like if I had one shelf to put up books or action figures or whatever it is I'm going to put there, if I had a lot and I needed 2 or 3, how would I spell it? Who can tell me? How would I spell that word if there was more than one shelf? Christopher, how do you think I'd spell this one?
Shelves. S-H E-L-V-E-S.
Perfect. SHEL, and then instead of the F, VES. We have our last box. What change is needed, if any? Let me zoom in a little bit on this. Okay. This is the same as last week. They give us a sentence, and they want us to see if there's a mistake that we need to fix. Our sentence says, "That was a great football game," exclaimed Michael. A says to add quotation marks after the period. Who can tell me, what do you use quotation marks for? When you put quotation marks in your writing, what are you doing, or what is that telling your reader? Kylie?
I have a different question. What do
Oh,
we do for the last word on the yellow lines?
same thing as the other ones. When you spell it and it becomes plural, the beginning is the same. The F turns into a V, and then you add ES.
I didn't know what to do with the V. I mean the
With the
F.
F? That's okay. Okay. So who can tell me, when you're writing and you put quotation marks, what are you telling your reader? What do we use quotation marks for? What do you think when you're reading a book and you start to see quotation marks? What is that telling you? What's happening there? Bailey, what's happening there when you see quotation marks?
It lets the reader know that somebody is talking
It means
to.
someone is talking. Quotation marks. Quotation marks are always hanging out on top. And quotation marks are something that always come in pairs. There's never just one quotation mark by itself. You have whatever the person said, and then afterwards you have more quotation marks. The quotation marks show you when someone's mouth opens to start talking, and then when their mouth closes and they're finished. There's always two. Always. It's like shoes or like the legs on your pants. There's always two of them. Because if you only had one, it wouldn't make much sense. B, add an exclamation point after game. We talked about this earlier. For exclamation point, what does that mean? If there's an exclamation point or an exclamation mark, what are they trying to tell you? What does it mean for that sentence if there's an exclamation mark at the end of it? What does it normally mean if you see a sentence end with an exclamation mark? Brianna, what does it mean?
That he is either yelling
Yelling or what? Yelling's a good reason, but there's another reason. What else? Why else might you be using the exclamation mark? Or what's the reason why you would be shouting?
You're excited.
You're excited. So there's anytime that you would be excited or shouting, right? If you're excited, if you're scared, like we said earlier, if you're walking around and you hit your toe on something or your elbow and you ow, that would be a reason to put the exclamation mark. C, add a period after game. We talked about that with our sentence. Periods are how we end our sentence if there's no question or if no one's shouting or excited. And D says to make no change, that the sentence is perfect the way it is. Who can tell me, what answer choice do you think is the best one? Which one seems like it's the best for this sentence? We either add quotation marks after the period, which is right here. We add an exclamation point after game, right here. We add a period after game, same place, right there. Or we leave the sentence alone. It's perfect the way it is. Who can tell me what kind of change do you think we should make here? What kind of change would be good for this sentence? Let's start taking a look at our answer choices. Let's go one by one. Let's start with the top one. Add quotation marks after the period. Now, like I told you all, quotation marks always come in pairs. There's always two of them. One at the beginning, one at the end. So first, let's check and make sure that we have two quotation marks. If we only have one, then it might be a good idea to add another one. We have one here. And if I look through my sentence, I see another one. So if I already have two quotation marks, should I add another one? Do I need to have three quotation marks? Or should I just leave it at two? Who can tell me? For the quotation mark, should I leave it at two or should I add another one? Christopher, what do you think? Should I just have the two quotation marks or should I add a third one? What do you think, Christopher? Add another one or no?
Add another one?
Okay. For quotation marks, something really, really important. You always need to have two. Okay? Has to be in pairs. All right? I want you to think of them like shoes. So, Christopher, do you need 3 shoes to go outside during the day?
No,
No. How many do you need?
2, but I do 3 sometimes.
You might need an extra pair, let's say if the first ones get dirty, but you only have 2 feet, right? So if you have one quotation mark, a second quotation mark, you don't need to have that third one. The same way that if you were going to go outside, you would need to put on one shoe and then your other shoe, but you won't need to have a third shoe. Because that extra
I
one
go to the restroom.
not really doing anything. Go ahead, Christopher. So answer choice A, I don't really like it. I'm going to go ahead and just say no. So no to answer choice A. That means it's either answer choice B, answer choice C, or answer choice D. B says add an exclamation point after game. Now, Brianna helped us out with this one. She said that an exclamation mark or an exclamation point tells you that somebody is excited or shouting. Is somebody excited or shouting here? That was a great football game, exclaimed Michael. Would they be excited about this or shouting about this? Who can tell me? That was a great football game, exclaimed Michael. Could they be shouting about that? What do you think, Jaylene? That was a great football game, exclaimed Michael. Would somebody be shouting about that? Or could they be shouting about that?
Yes.
Yeah. If it was a great football game and you really enjoyed it, yeah, sometimes you would say it, and you wouldn't say it like bored, right? You wouldn't get finished watching a really good movie and go, wow, that was really good. Because if it was exciting, if you liked it, you'd be excited, right? So this one makes some sense. Maybe we should add an exclamation point here. Because if Michael really liked the football game, he wouldn't be saying it like he was bored. He wouldn't just say, that was a great football game. He'd be excited about it. C says to add a period. If we add a period, that just makes it a declarative sentence or a declarative statement. Like he's just saying something. We just talked about that. If it was a great football game, if he was excited about it, if he enjoyed it, would he just say it like if he was bored? That was really great. Probably not, huh, Bella? Because if he said it kind of regular, he probably didn't really enjoy it. So I don't think C makes much sense. Now answer choice D says to make no change, that it's fine the way it is. But we had seen up here that we probably should add the exclamation point because it was a good game. He liked it. He was excited. So yeah. So our answer should be B. Add an exclamation point after game. All right. So here are our answers for Monday. I want you to go ahead, find this in the Google Classroom, and make sure that your answers for Monday match my answers for Monday.